Available on DVD now from Corinth Films is a brand new release of three very old movies. It's funny, you pop the Corinth Films DVD, and it's a company that I've heard of, but I don't think I've purchased a lot from them. They have sort of one of those auto-run trailers at the beginning of the disc for the fine art house films that they release, and it's like The Bicycle Thief and just all these like really solid, amazing international art house classics. And then there's the film that I'm going to talk about, which is let me read from this cover. I'll put the actual cover up here. But Drive-In Retro Classics Science Fiction Triple Feature. Now, it is with no condescension that I talk about this. This is the kind of stuff that I love. This is the stuff that I grew up watching on Creature Double Feature on Saturday afternoon on Boston's WLVI Channel 56. This is the kind of stuff I watched late at night on TV. This is the kind of stuff that I loved as a kid that was, a decade or two ahead of when I was even born, but that's the stuff I'm nostalgic for. So when a company does a new release of this stuff, I get really excited. So I was given the opportunity to get a review copy of this disc, and I leapt upon it because I love this stuff. And honestly, I don't believe I've seen either or any of the three movies on here. So it's a science fiction triple feature, and you have three movies. I'll name them off the top of my head, and then I'll delve into them deeply. You have The Brain from Planet AROUS. You have The Hideous Sun Demon, and you have Rocket Ship X1. Is that correct? Well, almost. Rocket Ship XM. They refer to an X1 in the film. So three black and white 50s sci-fi movies, and wow, was this a lot of fun. I actually stayed up a little late last night. I watched all these straight through. It's a good old-fashioned drive-in double, or here triple feature, and they're all that double feature length. If you know what I mean, you know what I mean, and if you don't, I'll tell you. So in the old days, double features were very common. Prestige pictures might play by themselves, but just about everything else, not just at a drive-in, would play a double feature in the theater. So you had your A picture and your B picture. B picture tended to be like what we're talking about here. That's what they called them, B movies. They were not the movie, they were not the grand film. They were the film to fill out the bill. They were usually cheaply made, sometimes by studios, sometimes independent companies. They were lesser, cheaper movies. And to me, they're often the more fun movies. So you have these three movies. They're each, an hour. I think they range from 71 to 77 minutes. So they were intended to play with another film that was the similar length or maybe a little bit longer to give you an evening's worth of entertainment. So here you have three entire feature films that tell three entire stories with three separate casts of people that are shorter in total than maybe a new Marvel movie might be, or a new Batman movie might be. And that's okay. I'm a big fan of the tight 90, as I saw somebody call that online. An hour and a half is fine. Longer is fine. I saw a Bollywood movie the other day. It was 2.5 hours. It was great, but sometimes 70 minutes is cool too. So they actually are listed in a different order on the back. Sorry if I keep looking away, but I do need some visual aids here on occasion, some notes. So first up on the disc, you can watch them in any order, but the menu has them in this order. First up is The Brain from Planet AROUS, AROUS, but they say AROUS in the movie, so that's how I'm going to say it. And it stars John Agar, who is in many B movies of the 50s, 60s, and was once famous for being Shirley Temple's husband, Mr. Shirley Temple, as they say. And this is, he's in makeup by Jack Pierce, which is kind of interesting. He stars as a scientist who has this youthful, and I don't have his name, but he was on like a 70s medical show. It was like Medical Center or Emergency or something like that, but pre-fame. It's John Agar and his youthful, manly assistant. There's some kind of under the opening credits, you see a meteor crash in the desert somewhere. And I believe the basic setup is that there's some kind of radiation readings that they need to go and check this out. So the two scientists go off into the rocky wilderness, and they go into a cave. And if it's a 50s shot around Hollywood science fiction movie, Bronson Cave, and very familiar area that was used well up into the 80s and 90s, might still be used in things. It's the hole the Batmobile comes out of. It doubles as the exterior exit of the Batcave on the Batman 66 show. So they go into Bronson Cave and they find high radiation readings and this beams of light are inside, and what they stumble upon is this semi-translucent giant floating brain with glowing eyes that talks to them in a menacing tone and basically absorbs itself into John Agar and controls him. And then the brain wants to, take over the world or rule the world with its atomic power. That would be enough of a setup for this movie. But there's more. Another brain shows up So John Agar he comes back to, he and his assistant go off into this cave. The brain absorbs into him. The assistant gets basically fried from radiation. Agar comes back alone a week later, as if nothing had happened, in his regular street clothes, starts getting cozy with his fiance, and sinister things proceed from there. The brain, once a day, it is revealed, the brain has to come out of Agar to absorb oxygen and talk to him and basically menace him. It shakes a finger that doesn't exist. It shakes its brain and glowing eyes at him. And basically, it's a horny brain. The brain looks at the picture of Agar's fiance and says, you know, there are some things I can't do in this form, but I can do in your form. And it's kind of unintentionally hilarious how lascivious this giant floating glowing-eyed brain is, and how it wants to control Agar to get a little action, but it also wants to use him to take over the world. So a second brain manifests itself and shows up at the house of the fiance and I believe her father, and says, I'm here to help you. I'm a good giant floating brain with glowing eyes. I'm going to take out the evil giant floating brain with glowing eyes that can absorb into people. I just need a willing host, somebody who he won't suspect, so I can get close to the evil floating brain that is inside John Agar and take him out. And I'm not going to tell you everything that happens in the movie, but if I get to this point and you decide you don't want to watch it, nothing more I say is going to help. And at this point, I think you probably already know you do want to watch it. So the glowing brain says, I need to find something to absorb into so I can help thwart the plans of the bad brain. And the consensus is it should be the dog. So, so the dog is inside. The good giant floating brain is inside the dog. So anyway, this movie is wonderful. It's tight. It's hilarious, unintentionally hilarious. Though you have to think when they made it, they weren't all, they were intelligent people making this movie. They weren't all probably taking it 100% seriously. Agar goes bonkers often. He has these sequences and a lot of clips from the 2 out of the 3 movies on this disc I remember being used in old TV commercials, or when TNT did 100% Weird late at night, things like that. Agar, when it's very possessed by the brain, they'll do a close-up on his face and his eyes will be like silver spheres, which is a really cool kind of creepy effect. It's an image you probably have seen before. I think they used it in the poster. Anyway, I won't tell you how it ends. Brain from planet AROUS. Heck of a lot of fun. That was, I believe, 1957. Second on this disc is The Hideous Sun Demon. This is another film I'd never seen, but it's a title I'd always seen. It's a retro 50s schlock poster that I've seen the imagery used a lot, but I've just never seen the movie. This stars Robert Montgomery, also directed by Robert Montgomery, as when we meet him, the film kind of opens with him being brought into a hospital, and he's again another like atomic research scientist who's been exposed to too much radiation, and they put him out on the roof. They're not like dumping him on the roof. Apparently, they're bringing a bunch of the patients onto the roof of this hospital he's been brought into to soak up the sun's healing rays, and he basically, we find out, turns into the titular hideous sun demon, this scaly like lizard beast when he's in the sun for very long. And he busts out of this hospital. Again, I'm not going to tell you everything. He busts out of this hospital, goes on the run at night, meets up with a lovely lounge singer in a bar, starts to romance her, and then has to try to avoid the sun's rays lest he become a terrible, horrifying, hideous sun demon. Also, this movie is a lot of fun. It's certainly done on the cheap. A lot of the acting is pretty stiff. A lot of the sound recording is a little hollow. A lot of like wide shots and the mic can't get too close. But it has wonderful use of 50s locations. Wherever this was shot, I think at the end it says one of those shot in Hollywood, USA. And I think at some point you see certain locations on buildings. So it's Southern California, but it's shot in vintage kitchens. Oh, I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh, it's a 50s kitchen. Look at all the enamel. Look at the tin. And it's shot in vintage bars and factories, and it's all like on location. It doesn't have that studio feel where things feel a little fakey. So it's a really cool snapshot of that time and place, some really interesting locations and cars and things too. And it's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous and kind of really funny. And I'm not one, while I adjust myself here, I'm not one to laugh at the past because it's not like the present. I don't laugh at older technology. I don't laugh at old clothes. It is what it is. I love being able to look at different eras. But this one's just fun and kind of silly. 2 out of the 3 movies on this disc, the first 2 at least, if they weren't treated to the Mystery Science Theater or Riff Tracks treatment, they would be a very fertile ground for those artists to walk upon. So 2 out of the 3. The last film on the set is the oldest, from 1950, stars Lloyd Bridges, actually, Noah Beery Jr., and Hugh O'Brien, so it's got some familiar faces in it. The first two, John Agar is about the only person you're going to know from the first two movies, but in Rocket Ship XM, it's got some notable names before they went on to be more notable names. And basically, it's the tale, 1950, if I didn't say that already, black and white. And all three of these are 4:3, by the way. They're old 1:3:3 Academy ratio films. They're not zoomed in to be widescreen. They're the entire picture as you would have probably seen in a theater at that time, pre-widescreen era, and black and white. So this is the oldest of the bunch. It's about a manned expedition. It's about the first manned expedition to the moon on a rocket, and it's a team of scientists, all male, one female, and they're going to the moon. And once they get up into space, something goes wrong, and too much thrust is applied or something like that, and they wind up in the realm of Mars. And they're like, well, while we're here, we were just going to go to the moon, but if you're going to give us Mars, we'll take Mars. So they land on Mars, and when they get to Mars, any exteriors on Mars are given like this reddish-brown tint. So it's not, you can't say it's in color, it's in a color. It's in a color that's not black or white or gray. And so they go out and they explore Mars a little bit, and what they find I won't spoil, and how the rest of the film goes I won't spoil, but it's a little creakier than the first two. It's probably the best shot and lit of the three movies. It's good atmosphere. And the atmosphere is almost entirely in a space capsule, but it's well done. It's well executed film. It's just a bit more talky and slow. It is of a type of sci-fi that was, a lot of people near control panels talking about the bad thing that's going to happen, and they look out the porthole and they see a model on a string of the Earth or something like that. It's done earnestly. It's not really silly per se. I mean, you could find it campy if you wanted to, but for the most part, it's a very earnest, straight ahead science fiction tale about what could have happened maybe with the knowledge they had at the time of an expedition to the moon or to Mars. Surprisingly, I'm not going to give anything away, surprisingly downbeat ending on Rocket Ship XM. Downbeat ending with a silver lining. Which really surprised me, but it might have been fitting with the time of, we're going to go out there and we're going to conquer new worlds and sacrifices have to be made, but for the greater good kind of thing. So that is my basic thoughts on this disc. So 3 movies, 4:3, black and white with color sequences in Rocket Ship XM. I liked them all. Rocket Ship XM I might have been the least fun, but I thought was still good. And it's a good late night movie, very quiet, moody, broody kind of thing. Transfers look good. This is a DVD, not a Blu-ray. When I saw this announced, I was a little disappointed that it wasn't a Blu-ray. Could be that there are not HD masters for these films. I think all of these had hit DVD once before. This is released by Corinth Films under the umbrella of, or vice versa, the Wade Williams collection. And these have had video releases in the past. So there's a little bit of print damage here and there on Hideous Sun Demon. Around some of the reel changes, it gets a little scratchy and splicey. That may be all they had to work with. I'm not saying these look bad at all. They look fine. And I was watching these on a Blu-ray player on a huge, nice TV. So it didn't really bother me. It would be cool to have them in HD, but the way most of us saw these were beat up 16mm prints on local TV in the decades after the films came out, so I'm not really going to complain that much. To me, it's a really nice release. It's really cool to have these 3 together. I really hope this does well enough to lead to Corinth Films doing more films that are from the Wade Williams collection, because I know he owned a lot, and more of these drive-in collections, because these are the kind of movies that I love. So out now on DVD from Corinth Films is, let me get the title straight again, because it's a long one, Drive-In Retro Classics Science Fiction Triple Feature.